So, so how do you, in the end, these problems take a lot of time and a lot of money from what could be growing the business, right? So how do you fix it? And these are the things that I came up with to fix a situation like that, or things you can take, things you can do to try to make this situation better. I think one is hire for attitude. This is a concept that was reinforced when I read Scaling Up, the book that we talked about a couple of months ago. If you're not hiring people for the proper culture fit in your business, then they're not going to do what you need to do to grow the business. So if you're trying to be the efficient company, the positive company, the proactive company, you can't hire somebody that seems lackadaisical, negative, doesn't have an outgoing attitude. If you're the meticulous company, you can't hire somebody sloppy. If you're a sales company, you can't hire somebody that is not aggressive. So, if you hire for the proper attitude, and in this case, customer service, if people don't care what other people think, or people don't care about issues, or don't care, or don't have some sort of empathy toward who they're dealing with, then they're not going to have a good customer service skill. So, I think the first is, and when we talk to clients about where they're taking their companies, and if they're changing their brand, or trying to come up with a new mission, or revisiting their mission, and they have a hard time getting their employees to make the change, then either the change is too drastic, or maybe they have the wrong employees. But if you hire based on what you want them to be, if it's a proper culture fit, and they have the skills, then everybody should be going in the same direction at the right speed. And how many times have you gone to, like, I go to a grocery store and somebody is standing there and they have to be there no matter what. So you might as well be happy. Don't just scan my groceries and be mean. You don't have to be joyful and try to uplift my day either, but just, have the proper attitude. And if you go to a place like Monticello's, where the waitress was smiling and helpful and offering this and that, and engaging with the kids, that's great. That's going to get me to come back and talk about it on something like this. But if I go in a restaurant where the waitress acts like I'm bothering her even sitting there, then that has an impact that carries on forward down the line. And then reinforce the values. Tell your employees what they expect, or what you expect of them, and make sure they're acting that way as they interact with clients and customers. If somebody says something or does something that doesn't fall in line with the way you want the company to be perceived, or the way you want to behave, then it needs to be addressed. Correcting inconsistencies. So, if we do something, if we set an expectation to do something a certain way every time, then we should do it. And if there's something that's keeping us from doing that, whether it's a piece of equipment, or a policy, or an employee, or employees being trained differently, make sure that things are consistent so that every time a customer comes in, they receive the same experience. If they're one day coming into a very positive, uplifting, engaging experience, and the next day people are treating them like they can't stand the fact that they walked in the door, then the fact that there was such a good experience makes the bad experience even worse. So make it consistent. Look, you can be a place like the Dick's restaurant that's out there, and if you're creating that attitude, people are going to expect it. They're going to walk into it and they're going to be fine with it. But if you're trying to create a business where people are treated very well, the one time you don't treat them well, it's going to be even a bigger issue. This is big for me. Create specialists. So the jack of all trades, and it's been talked about a lot in the past, jack of all trades doesn't work. And especially in business where you're trying to do something where you're consistent, you can't have somebody handle this, and handle this, all mostly unrelated. If they are for us, if we have a help desk person, we can't have the help desk person also be responsible for a proactive responsibility, because his entire job, his focus is customer service, picking up the phone as quickly as possible, fixing problems as quick as possible. The proactive person in our business is responsible for looking into potential issues, to researching things, to spending a lot of concentrated time on making things better, overlooking the entire scenario. So it's two different mentalities. You can't have one person shift gears and do one thing and then shift gears, 10 minutes or an hour later to be reactive and pick up the phone and help somebody out that might be upset, frustrated. You almost have to be calming and empathetic, and then you have to go back into being sort of brainy and in the books. So you can't. It's too hard to switch gears. Most people can't do it. You can't be a salesperson and a service guy at the same time. It's hard to do. And then the last part, and it's also a big part of our business, especially the IT side of our business, develop process. The more you can create a repeatable process, do the same thing the same way over and over again. And we talk about it here, right, Callie? We talk about when we do the videos, we want the camera to be in almost the exact same place every time. We want it to be at the same height. We want to have all the equipment in the same place so that we can break it out and we don't forget anything. We don't forget the microphone. We don't forget the headphones. We don't forget the microphone, the other microphone, the one I'm wearing. We want it to look almost the same every time. We want the same experience so that the variables are minimized and we can then continue to work on the things that we do or do not like. And then it's also encouraging the customers to adhere to it. And that's been a big problem with us on the IT side in a way with newer customers especially, to kind of bring them on board so that we give them the best result. So if a customer, if we have a help desk set up, we have 4 ways for people to contact us via help desk. And if they don't use one of those 4 ways, or if they don't contact us until they see somebody on site, then it makes their experience worse. And if we're trying to make their experience better, and if we develop these things to make that happen, then if they buy into what we do and if they buy into the result that we're going to give them, then they also have, in a way, have to help us out and help facilitate it. And so we will say to them, help us, put us in a position to succeed for you. So, these are the ways that we best find that we can be the best we can for you. And, the more you can adhere to it, the better the experience will be. That doesn't mean that we're that rigid that if something falls out of that, that we can't handle it, but we want to minimize those so that when it does fall out and when it does happen that it's a little bit odd, that it doesn't work exactly the way we want, it's few and far between. So we're ready to handle it when it does happen. I review the processes. For us, we just reviewed, what's keeping some people from calling us. When the people that don't call us, is it because they don't like the way we're answering the phone? They don't like the interaction. They don't like the time it takes. They don't like, maybe some people don't like to be on speaker, and we had some people that were using speakerphones, so we started using headphones because some people are uncomfortable with the way that it sounds, and I know I am also. So we stopped using speakerphones. So, there's different things that you can do to streamline it, and you might even be causing some friction that you don't realize it. And so you almost have to put somebody through the process and see, okay, if I were this customer, I would do this, and how do I feel about it? Or maybe even have a fake, hire somebody to come in and go through the experience and see how it goes. And then refine based on the review that you did, based on what you found. Refine the process, find a way to make it a little bit better.